All right. I think I did it. Hello, everybody. I guess it's kind of a funny night because I'm usually just all by my lonesome, but tonight is, I think, better than my birthday, better than Christmas, possibly better than sex. This is my dream team together at one time.
So flattered right now.
So first I want to do introductions, and I feel like we should start this off by saying Blessed Day, sisters. So Sister Julia, can I turn the time over to you to introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Julia. I was raised in the church. I went on a mission. I graduated from BYU, Idaho. Before I skip over, I was married in the temple. I came out in my marriage as gay and began dating a woman, and I was excommunicated from the church. So I am an excommunicated Mormon. So that's what I think of when I say ex-Mormon. I don't think of myself as anti. I know a lot of people will label me as anti, but I started a channel after I was excommunicated, or right around that time. I started a channel called Analyzing Mormonism, where I'm looking at the historical side of the church mostly, and I try to be sort of neutral. I know I'm biased, and that's fine. I think people can filter that out when they watch my content, but I try to be neutral. I try to give the facts. I try to give as much sources as I can. That's another thing that people really like about my content, is that I point people in the direction where they can learn more about the second anointing, or learn more about the garments, or learn more about other different things. I am getting my master's degree in history because of all this, and I've been doing this for about 4 years. I'm like, I might as well get my master's degree in history because I love learning about history. I'm passionate about the Equal Rights Amendment for women and the Civil Rights Acts and things like that. So like, that's kind of what I'm learning about right now. I guess that's pretty much all. I have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I have a website, Analyzing Mormonism. That's my content. So I don't know if there's anything else to add. If Beth, you want to talk about your stuff?
Yeah.
Can I just add something to the end of you really quick, Julia, before
sure.
we turn to Beth? You helped me deconstruct Mormonism in ways that nobody else did. And that's one of the reasons why I was so absolutely thrilled to collaborate with you on this podcast and just know you as a human being. Your details and the way that you go by like old books, like this out of print book that I got that talks about like the original temple endowments and the original garments and all that stuff. It helped me to just kind of pick apart the little pieces of the faith that I'd been indoctrinated in since I was young. And you were one of probably the most impactful people that I followed. I don't think that there's a Julia video that I've missed. And I've learned so much from you. So anybody who's not following Julia, whether you're Mormon or not, Mormonism is a huge part of American history and somewhat impactful part of world history. And I just think that everybody should know everything about it. And if you're going to learn anything about it, Analyzing Mormonism and Julia is your place. And I love that you have a woman's perspective on things too, which I'm a woman, so it really speaks to me.
Yeah, I try to get my content, I try to make it so that it's engaging to Mormons and ex-Mormons. Like, it's not stuff that they've heard over and over again. It's things that are new and interesting, things that I've never heard, even though I was in the church for 30 years. So yeah, that's really, really kind of you to say that.
Yeah, Julia, you really do have really great content. And one of my favorite things about your content is that we have so many men in the ex-Mormon space who are seen as like the church historians. And you're a woman that's actually coming in and talking about these things. And so I think that that's just like such a valuable voice in this space, because women in this space just don't get the credit that I think they should. So
I agree. I think women. Thank you.
So my name is Beth Magnetic, and I am over at Death by Patriarchy. And I began as Mormon True Crime. And I was talking about the overlap between the theology of Mormonism and the strange crimes that we see coming from Mormon communities. And there's some really weird stuff there. But in the process of digging deep into all of those different stories, I ended up finding that it wasn't just Mormonism that was like the issue. It's more when somebody politically radicalizes. And then it that political radicalization makes them religiously radicalize. And so I started to see this happening outside of this very unique, Mormon bubble. And so I ended up finding out about Joseph Paul Franklin, who he was unaliving people who were in interracial relationships. I ended up finding out about Kit Arthur, who he was,
Wait, recently? Sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm shocked.
No, this happened back in the 70s. So he began in 74, and he had joined the church because he liked the racism.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hang on. Sorry, I just want to put a plug because I think Brigham Young says, because the very beginning of the church they were very against interracial marriage, and I think to the point of I think the blood atonement was evoked. Yep. Anyway, that's so. Oh my gosh, that's so wild.
Yep. And then Israel Keys, his parents were Mormon, and he was in a his parents left the church around 1978, and they ended up joining white supremacist cults after that. And in his congregation that he was in Washington, 3 different serial killers came out of that one congregation. And
oh my God.
Yeah. And then a man named Kit Arthur, and then some people, the 3 different cases that were against the LGBTQ community. Anyway, I just ended up realizing that the strangest Mormon cases are actually cases of being politically radicalized.
And so, do you have episodes on these on your channel? Like that's
where we're headed next. This is what we're headed into now. So I do have an episode on Israel Keys up. But that was like my first moment where I was like, wait a second. So anyway.
And Beth, remind us where we can find you.
You can,
because I don't think that a lot of my followers follow you yet. And
Death by Patriarchy on YouTube and TikTok, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm just Beth Magnetic. You can just find me there. That's where I do most of my posting at the moment. So,
all right. And we're going to be talking about some great true crimes on our new ... that I'm just going to turn over to you, Beth, to tell everyone what we're up to.
Yeah. So we have decided to come together and do a podcast called Under Her Eye. And Under Her Eye is a podcast where it's kind of a feminist exploration of the fascism and other issues that we're facing in the world right now. But also we're gonna certainly play in Mormonism. That's where we all come from. Mormonism is more of a side character in this podcast. It is not the main character. So you'll definitely hear about it and know that that's where we come from. But we want to explore so much more beyond that. So we are going to be here every week. We have a lineup of some really great podcasts planned to be able to share with y'all. So we also are going to be taking the audio and putting it on podcasting platforms for you all. So we'll have links for you in the near future.
All right. So one of the reasons, I guess I should introduce myself for some of the people that are over in our other platform. I'm Jennie Gage of Life Take 2. I share my insider knowledge of the Mormon Church. I served as a female leader in Mormonism from the time that I was age 17. That's when I was called into my first Relief Society presidency at age 17.
That's so young. Oh my gosh, that's so young.
Temple worker at 29. So I have some insider perspective on the Mormon Church after 44 years. So that's a lot of what I do. I also share my escape from trad wife life and how I've rebuilt a beautiful, happy life on the other side. So I'm here on YouTube at Life Take 2, and I guess all over the places, Life Take 2. Now, one of the reasons why we wanted to come together and do a podcast is that in my real life, I am constantly on the phone with both Julia and Beth. And if any little thing comes out, if there's been a Mormon crime or a press statement, or we just found out how much money the Mormon Church has, then I'm on the phone with one of these two. And there are so many conversations that we have that contain so much history, so much data, so much like incredible knowledge that sometimes I feel like we shouldn't be keeping these conversations to ourselves. Like this phone call right now, while I'm like going for my jog around Tucson, should be a podcast. And all of everything that Beth has gleaned from her interview with Lori Vallow Daybell, this should be a podcast. This shouldn't just be a phone call. So like, certainly I hope that we can still continue having phone calls. Like Beth is still going to text you at 6 a.m., but we want to take a lot of those things that we're dialoguing about and share them with you, because I always feel like I walk away from the conversations that I have with either one of you, and sometimes when we're all talking together, feeling like I've learned so much. And that's what we hope to give to you. So I would be so honored if you would hop over to our Under Her Eye podcast page on YouTube and give that a sub, because we have some incredible things coming out, both some long form videos that dive even deeper into some topics than I've heard anyone dive into, as well as some little shorts that we're going to put out too. Some of our little Under Her Eye minis diving into the patriarchy. So tonight's topic is General Conference. And oh, you know what? I forgot one announcement. Sorry, I'm already ahead of myself because I just cannot wait to talk about how we're supposed to adopt our husband's mistress's baby. I've waited all day to dive into this again, like we did with Shelise over at Cults to Consciousness. Absolutely blew my mind. But one little announcement before we segue into our main topic today. If you would like to join us at the Church of Coercion tomorrow evening, we are doing our first round of our deconstructive separation rituals. I'm a co-founder and an ordained pastor in the Church of Coercion, which is an atheist church that's open to all, but we created it as a landing space for those who specifically are deconstructing Mormonism, although we're probably 50-50. I think that half of our membership, half of the, I'm really getting more I've been watching too much. Half of the people who engage with our church have never been Mormon and have just found it a really beneficial place. We do godless sermons on Sundays. We have some inspirational songs sometimes on Wednesday nights. And tomorrow evening, we'll be doing a ritual that's just kind of a happy, good vibe type of theme to help you leave church. I think it's interesting that when you enter any type of religion, Mormonism, Catholicism, etc., there's always a ritual around that. You have your christening, you have your blessing, you have a baptism, your name is put on the records of the church. But for me, when I transitioned out of Mormon church, I just got this little cold, hard letter in the mail that said, you're no longer a member anymore. If you ever want to come back, call the missionaries and we'll talk about rebaptizing you. And I didn't have any type of a ritual around that. So we've created one.
You were excommunicated?
No, I resigned.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was my
resigned.
resignation.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got a little letter in the mail that said adios, and I wish that I'd had a ritual. So Joe and I have worked hard to create this beautiful ritual. Joe's done a little bit more work than me. That's just kind of healing. It's just a way to say goodbye to religion. So if you're interested, there's no cost. We're not going to put your name on anything. Nobody's charging you tithing. It may be beneficial. Maybe it's not. If it is, we hope you tell your friends about it. But we will be doing these, I believe, once a month, and tomorrow night is our very first one. So I'd love to have you join us. Okay, now without further ado, General Conference. I have never watched more in my life than now that I'm an ex-Mormon content creator. I watched the whole thing through twice, except for Sunday evening. If you're new to us and you weren't Mormon, every 6 months, the Mormon church leadership, like the very top leaders, not just the local bishops, not just stake presidents, and certainly not just like your local Relief Society presidents or trad wifeys, the real top leadership convenes at the conference center in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they release 2 days worth of material for members of the Mormon Church and the entire world. And it's inspiration, it's revelation, it's doctrine, it's all kinds of stuff. And we watched it for you so that you don't have to. And Julia has broken it down. Now, Beth tonight has not watched conference. Is that correct?
Not 1 minute.
Okay, we told Beth not to watch conference because it's going to be so fun. Julia has some clips that she's going to play for Beth so that we can get a blind reaction to General Conference on screen. And I've been waiting for this since like 7 o'clock this morning. So
yeah, specifically, I pulled out some of these clips because I was like, I want Beth to see this. So
I'm so anxious. I'm like, I know that I've seen like hints online of some things that were said, but I scrolled past as fast as I could as soon as I saw those. But I was like, oh my gosh.
Because you're like, it's like protecting the jury. Like we don't want the jury to be
That's literally what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like I'm on a jury right now, and I just have to I have to close my phone the second I see the thing.
Thank you for being obedient, Sister Magnetic. Okay, Julia, I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, sure.
Where are you going to lead us?
So I just wanted, just like you said, it was 2 days worth of conference. So that's 10 hours of these people standing at the pulpit speaking. And so that just to get into context of how much that is. So at the very beginning, what they do is they give what's called an auditing report, and they stand up and I think it's them to try to maybe you guys can correct me on what the purpose of this. It's to try to show the transparency of how they're spending their money, of their funding and stuff like that. I don't know if that's an accurate description of that, but
yes, a lot of churches do that.
Right.
I became Christian after Mormonism.
Okay, yeah.
And there's always like a semi-annual, like you stand up and tell everybody. But in other churches that I went to, like it's super transparent. Like we have $279,000.54, and we spent part of it on the Mexico trip. The Mormon church, like we don't get that, but it's kind of like a knockoff of what a lot of other religions do. So
yeah, and I've attended a few different churches too, and they seem to be very accurate, or very, here's the actual number that we're working with, here's the budget for this thing, and they're very open about it. The Mormon church, I think, is, and I don't mean to characterize this if this is not correct, but they seem to be trying to come across as transparent, but they're not actually being transparent. They're saying this is the amount of money that we're spending, but they don't actually tell you the amount of money that they have nor what they're spending. But anyway, I just wanted to comment on that, because mainly what they say is we've spent our money exactly how we want to spend it. And you guys should also be like us and live within your means, and don't like get out of debt and have a budget and things like that, which I think is easy for the church to say, because the church has over $250 billion with a B dollars. And they are sometimes not as giving towards the members with their fast offering or their tithing or whatever when they go to help members who ask for help for their mortgages or rent or whatever bills that they need help with. Like I've seen some bishops that are very giving, and sometimes they are allowed to give members help, and sometimes they don't give help. Anyway, I just don't know if you guys wanted to comment on any of that in the church's budget or anything like that since that's the beginning of conference.
So Beth didn't watch it, but I was already mad, and Kevin like got my blind reaction to everything, because he's just trying to live his life. And here's me listening to conference, and I'm already like slamming cupboards, because it's like, are you freaking kidding me? They said this little phrase. They're like, we spend our church money the way that we encourage the members of the church to spend their money, which is like donate to those in need, live off of, like most of it, and then put some away for a rainy day. And I don't remember them like ever saying that before. And I know that I'm not quoting it exactly, but I was just thinking that's their way of kind of inoculating people to the fact that they're hoarding wealth. It's like, put some away for a rainy day to me is like, okay, well, I'm going to like I want to have a little bit of savings in case I need to like replace my brakes or something. But they are estimated according to, was it the Wall Street Journal that I just read a couple of weeks ago? What was the article? They are estimated to be worth, it was the Widow's Mite that made this estimation and broke down their wealth 2 weeks ago, $1 trillion by 2040. The article that I read said that they have left the stratosphere. They have reached escape velocity from the world economy. I don't know of any other organization on the face of planet Earth, except for just like Elon Musk, that has reached, or maybe like the country of Dubai, that has reached escape velocity from our stratosphere. And this cute little guy with his little accountant outfit is like, we're just doing what we told the members to do. We're like spending wisely, we're giving to the poor, and we're putting a little bit away for a rainy day. Anyway, I was already like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. I always think it's funny that they stand up and say that, because they're really not giving you new information when they audit for the year.
They're basically standing up and saying, hey, we looked at how we spent our money and we feel good about it.
That's all they're saying. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if there's really a point, but maybe you're right, Jenny. They're inoculating the members that this is okay. This is how things work. This is fine. Yeah.
I think that they're also anticipating their members running into some financial situations with the stock market crashing, and they want their members to not be coming to them for help if they don't have to, because we told you to save for a rainy day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So
self-reliance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The church owns a lot of Tesla. Jules, hi Jules, hello. The church does own a lot of Tesla stock, by the way, tons of it. I remember when they bought like 700 million, and then it was reported that they bought like another 300 million. So yeah, the Mormon church owns a lot of Tesla. So.
And a lot of this can be found on the Widow's Mite website, right? Where their stocks and things that they have, I think so.
The Widow's Mite dives into that. All right,
Yeah.
Julia.
Okay, so I have 8 clips here from different talks. I don't want to go through every single talk. I do that on my own channel. I have like little 3-minute segments where I break down every single talk. We're not doing that today because we don't want you guys sitting here for 10 hours or even 5 hours, or even 2. We just want to kind of go through these, and I would really like to, because these are the main topics that I was hearing, these little clips that I've taken. If there are some that I've missed, maybe leave them in the comments, say, hey, this would be a great one to talk about, or this one affected me. Those would be great too. So if we want to go to the first clip,
okay,
then we can show that, and then we can just play it and get Beth's raw reaction. This one, I think, Jennie, you talked about this one too. This one's from Camille Johnson, and she's talking about the statue of the 5 wise virgins. And so I just wanted to play that clip, and then we can discuss it after.
okay, hold up. Am I supposed to be pushing a button that's going to play that?
Is there a way to put it on the screen? I don't have access to that part.
Yeah. You guys, thank you so much for being patient. Everybody knows that like Jennie's not techie because I'm a grandma. And okay, hold on. Where did it go? Beth, help.
It should be in like your backstage. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go. Got it.
Right. And so I think
Who says you can't teach grandmas to do this stuff?
Is there a way to advance the slide one? Go one
Is it
more.
on your screen?
It's not. I don't think it's on mine because I'm. Oh wait, maybe it is on mine.
Yeah, I think it's yours.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yes.
so this is the first clip.
A magnificent sculpture depicting the 5 wise virgins was recently placed on Temple Square, just outside the doors to the Relief Society building and in the shadow of the Salt Lake Temple. It is a location befitting application of the parable, because when we make and keep covenants, particularly those available in the house of the Lord, we fill our lamps with the oil of conversion. While the women represented as the 5 wise virgins are not sharing the oil of their conversion, they are sharing their light as they hold up their lamps, which are full of oil and burning brightly. Significantly, they are depicted supporting one another, shoulder to shoulder, an arm around another, making eye contact and beckoning others to come to the light. Indeed, we are the light of the world. The Savior declared, I give unto you to be the light of this people. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Do we light a candle and put it under a bushel? Nay, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Therefore, let your light so shine before this people that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Okay, so I had like 5 different thoughts. Like, first off, like my heart, as soon as I hear her voice, the baby Fundy voice coming through, all of a sudden I'm like, fight or flight panic feeling.
We all have to though. Like, so like, I don't know, we can't make fun of her for the voice that we all had. Like, I should be doing my voice right now.
See, I did not have the voice as a Mormon.
I didn't either. I thought I would get it on my mission, but that never happened.
But so there was that. Second, this feels like propaganda. Like, hey guys, we put this statue out and we're going to make a woman talk on this issue instead of an issue that actually matters. Like, it feels very, very propaganda to me.
I
think one of the other things that really stood out to me is the statue. I'm like, there's a very delicate balance here with what I'm gonna say is I'm glad that they are representing women of various cultures in the sculpture. That's great. I also take issue with a church that is literally a white supremacist cult putting people of color in their statue in that way without any transparency on their part of where this comes from. Like, if you guys, we've all posted things on TikTok and called out the racism in the church, and then you have tons of members who come at you saying, oh, this was never taught. And they pretend that there was no racism within Mormonism. And so to me, it feels like they are using people who they literally condemned so that they can now appear inclusive and like we're a global church, that our scriptures don't literally say that people will become white and delightsome.
For those who like are new to Mormonism or maybe aren't aware, So at the very beginning, Black men were given the priesthood under the first prophet, but under Brigham Young, the second prophet, he did not allow them to have the priesthood nor go to the temple because he didn't want Black people marrying white people. Like that was the main reason why. And so that continued on until 1978, and then they were given the priesthood and were allowed to go to the temple. But then I think a lot of people can argue that racism has still continued past 1978. And one thing that I notice frequently is that the top leadership of the church continues to just be white men. I think we have a few people, maybe we've had a few people of color trickle in and out, and especially in the 70s, there's just been a few. You can see the whole spread. And anyway, I just think that they're not being. Anyway, I don't know how to say it, but like in the statue does have a lot of ethnicities, and it is really nice. But I think you're right. This is not. And then in the Book of Mormon, there's the racism too for the Native Americans, where the verbiage is that their dark skin will turn white, and so it's racism not only with Black people but with Native Americans as well. And so like that just.
So let me ask you a question, both of you. Is there a way forward for the church in its race relations? Specifically, what if they apologize? What if Dallin Oaks stands at the pulpit after President Nelson passes away here sometime in the near future, just because he's 100 years old plus, and says, like, we ourselves are horrified by the doctrine in this book right here. We're horrified by 2 Nephi that says that peoples of this land were cursed with skin of Blackness, and we don't understand why it's in there, and we don't like it in there, so we're going to remove it. We think that it was an error, and we apologize for the people that were denied the priesthood. We apologize for my friend Spencer's dad, who would drive an hour to get to a church building in the 1970s, and then he couldn't go into the priesthood meeting. He had to sit in the hallway because he was Jamaican. We apologize to him. We apologize for all of those families that were affected, and we apologize for the continued racism that has such a hold in our communities today. I could do an entire video just on the ways that I have seen racism play out in Utah, especially when we lived there. If the church came out and just gave that no holds barred apology for the problematic racist history, would that heal it for you? Because to me, I feel like I'm being gaslit. Like when my ex-husband would be like, honey, look, I bought you flowers, but he wouldn't apologize for what he had done that made him go out and buy the flowers. And it's like, without the apology and the reparation, that next step of me forgiving and us stepping into a better relationship is never going to happen. And I feel that from the church. I feel like, here's the flowers, and like, we love you now, but you don't have that reparation, and it leaves us all feeling gaslit. So Julia and Beth, for either of you, would it make a difference if the church was really transparent and came out and just owned that and tried to do something about it? Or would that not change it?
For me, the racism in Mormonism is so ingrained to every single facet of it. They would have to completely reorganize how the church is being run. And they would have to say that the Book of Mormon is not a literal historical scripture, that this was inspired fiction that Joseph Smith wrote, and that there were some concepts and ideas from his period of time that came through that we no longer stand behind. And they would have to acknowledge the fact outright, and not in a gospel topics essays way, that they did so much to harm the Native Americans everywhere they went. And they did so much to harm Black people in their communities as well. And that they absolutely had doctrine that suggested that interracial marriage was punishable by death. That type of thing. They have to come out and be completely honest and completely transparent and present a plan for what we are doing instead. And that would need to include something, it would have to include something like DEI being put into the programs in the church. And I think that they have to,
if you're listening, here's our demands.
and I think that the thing is that if they did that, it would also have to come with feminism being acknowledged in the church and women being respected finally. And it would also have to come with the LGBTQ community actually being welcomed and treated well within their communities as well. And so I think for them to, if they open the door for racism, to be acknowledged, then they have to open the door for all the other things that they've been doing wrong. And I don't think they're going to do that.
So my only problem with this statue, there's the racist component, and I felt like it was cultural appropriation because that was a Jewish story. Like, that is a very sacred, ancient Jewish story from their text, and I don't know that I liked them changing the races. Like, there was a big hoopla because people didn't like that there was an African-American Little Mermaid, which I thought was amazing, but I felt like that too. Like, I don't know that they needed to insert that into this story. I had mixed emotions about that, but my biggest problem was that everything about this statue is that these women are in proximity to a man. The fact that they are the 5 virgins means that they haven't slept with a man. So that shows that they are pure. And the fact that they're standing outside of the wedding supper of Christ, again, proximity to a man. What do we actually know about these virgins? Nothing. I mean, they're virgins and they happen to have some oil. The other ones didn't have oil. I loved Maven's comment. She says, part of that story could have been that the ones without the oil had given it away to somebody else. I don't think that was the original intent in this rabbinical teaching in the New Testament, but I just think that there are so many examples of amazing women, both in biblical mythology, in the New Testament mythology, and then even pulling from like Book of Mormon mythology, Doctrine and Covenants mythology, and modern day women. There were some early pioneer women, Eliza Arsenault, other people that did incredible things. I don't know that just having these women waited outside the door for a man to come out and they hadn't had sex with a man, so here they are. I hated it. I hate that they're virgins. I thought that it was just a statue to purity culture. So that's it. Really simple, not complicated.
Yeah.
That was it.
I think that was something that stood out to me this week as I didn't see this, but I had seen pictures of the statue. It had never crossed my mind how weird the fascination with virginity is in religion.
Well, and this story was repeated at least 3 times throughout all of conference, if not more.
It was such a theme.
It just kept going.
Okay. On that note, then, I do have one more thing.
Okay.
How we were talking about how the church is saving all of their money. They're building up to $1 trillion by 2040, right? So it's a parable for what they're doing, right? They can't share it with you. They can't give the money to you. They can only light the world for you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's all.
Wow.
I love that.
Wow.
Sit with that one. I was like, I'm not going to say it. We need to move to the next clip. But as soon as you said that it was said multiple times, I'm like, okay, this is propaganda right here.
Yeah. And I think she was the first one to talk about it because they were able to present this new statue, which I also think, seeing the Salt Temple in the background, it's got all the I don't know, it just does not look like in the best condition right now because they're working on it. I don't know. They could have waited a little bit or done something, but anyway, that's a really interesting connection with their finances.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, Julia.
Okay,
What's
so the next
next?
one that I grabbed, let me see. Let me see if I can skip forward. Okay, this is Elder Razvan. He's talking, and I don't know if you guys have seen this going around already, but he's talking about people who have left the church. And I've titled this one Footnotes.
There are naysayers who shout, "Lo here and lo there," just as they did in the prophet Joseph Smith's time. However, they are and will be but mere footnotes in this noble work.
Okay, that's the whole clip, but what did you guys think?
It's douchey. First off, Emma Smith, she's just a footnote. Like, she was treated as a footnote by the LDS Church for a very long time. But it turns out that she wasn't just a footnote. I think that, so I did one of the times when I opened my phone and something popped up, somebody had posted, I knew who it was, but they had said, the thing about footnotes is they're what contains the truth.
Yes.
And, right?
I think Julia originated that. Julia's
No.
No.
I saw it from somebody else.
I'm giving you credit. I think you're cooler than you are.
Yeah, I just saw it in my my Facebook feed. Someone had written it, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like it might be something that comes up today." I love how they're trying to diminish us so much and make it so that we are not the main characters ever. Nobody who does work that helps to save people from Mormonism could possibly have main character energy, for sure.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Also, as you were speaking, I was thinking about how, as a studying historian, footnotes are really important. Like, in fact, that can catalyst us into discovering other things about the historical, whatever we're researching. But to me, if you look at the Gospel Topics essays, the church often hides things in their footnotes, and I probably throughout their whole website. But like somebody pointed out that in the polygamy essays, you don't find polyandry until you get to one of the footnotes. It's not actually in the text itself. And so, thinking about that, he's categorizing footnotes as a negative thing. Like it's a small thing that's insignificant. Whereas from a historian's perspective, those are really important. And even somebody who's researching the church, you want to know where these sources are so that you can learn more. And so it's just interesting to me that he's making footnotes bad when, like you said, Beth, footnotes are actually what leads to the truth and what leads to like more learning. It's just interesting that he characterizes that way. Also the labels, the church leaders have in the past labeled ex-Mormons or people who have left the church as certain things like, I'm going to space again.
Lazy learners,
lax disciples, decommissioned temples, Judas, Coercion, things like that. So like the church tends to put labels on people who have left the church, I think to probably scare the members into not listening to them.
I think it's also a thought-stopping practice where it makes it so that like as soon as they hear us say anything, it doesn't matter because we're lazy learners, because we're footnotes, because we're whatever. Something else that I'm just thinking about, you were mentioning the Gospel Topics essays. If you go on the church website and you search for blood atonement, it will pop up and it says, blood atonement, see Jesus Christ atonement through. Yeah, that's what it says. But then you go a couple pages deep and you finally find the Mormonism and Violence Gospel Topics essay. And blood atonement is in two different footnotes. One of the footnotes says that it was anti-Mormon rhetoric. The other one says that it was hyperbole, that some members didn't realize that it was hyperbole. And so, they acted on it. Whoops.
Oh my gosh.
And so, that's the thing is that, the footnotes are where we
So can we all agree that footnotes are where it's at, ladies? Like he meant this as like a slam. He's like a mic drop. You guys are y'all are footnotes now. Well, brass band, footnotes are where it's at. Whenever I hear talks like this here, I'm going to stand up for just a minute and grab. So right in front of me, I have my magnet board where I keep notes and all my show prep stuff. And I keep this, I don't want to show the address. I keep this letter from my mom. My Mormon mom put a letter in the mail 2 years ago and sent it to me. And this letter says, I never want to see you again because you do ex-Mormon TikTok. At the very end, it says, have a good life, Mom. I don't know if that can show up in the camera or not there. I do videos about this all the time. I don't have a family. I am orphaned because I left the Mormon church. And that actually happened before I started my social media with family just ghosting me.
Before your social media.
Before my social media, my mom stopped talking to me the day she found out from my kids had left the church. Oh, and I always say, it's not that my mom is a bad mom, it's that she's a good Mormon. And talks like this, when somebody stands at the pulpit and says, if your son or daughter has stopped going to church, they are mere footnotes. That has real impact in people's lives. And with my 400,000 followers on TikTok, I cannot even count how many comments and DMs I've had from people who've left the church. When I do videos about my mom wrote me this letter, who are like, oh, well, here, my mom hasn't talked to me for 10 years before I left the church. And my parents, the only time they do talk to me is if they're sending me a Book of Mormon or something. When somebody stands at the pulpit and says, these people don't matter, they are mere footnotes. They're the yapping dogs at the wheels of the caravan. They are lazy learners, lax disciples, don't give heed to the unbelievers, especially the apostates who left the church. And the whole story of Coercion, which is why we named our atheist church the Church of Coercion. I'm now an ordained pastor, feels amazing. That matters. These aren't just mere words, like sticks and stones, they break your bones. But when good, faithful, believing members go to church and they hear that, it triangulates. So then they go home and they think about their daughter who's left the church and their behaviors and actions and thoughts change. So I find this type of rhetoric particularly despicable because it alienates, it triangulates, and harms families.
But you just said she wasn't a bad, sorry, going back, you said she wasn't a bad mom, she was a good Mormon. And I'm
She had to
just
pick
stuck with
one,
that
yeah.
because, well, like I'm stuck with that because so many times in the church, people pick, I need to be good Mormon. And that, no matter what that means outside of that, bad parent, bad child, or not healthy. I don't know. That struck me that you said it that way.
When I left, when I left the church and I was trying to figure out who I was, I just had this thought that constantly was coming to me that I identified first as a Mormon and as Beth second.
Oh
and
my goodness.
So I had to completely learn and deconstruct who I am. And I do feel that, like, to some degree, I will always be Mormon. Mormonism is always going to be part of me.
Well, they're not using it anymore. Like, it's like Prince, when he was like the artist, formerly known as Prince. Like, now they're like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, formerly known as Mormon. Like, can we just have that now? Like, I think we are the Mormons.
I'm taking it. Yeah.
We're the Mormons.
Yeah.
But
All
Mormon
in favor?
first and Beth second. Yeah. But so you were Mormon first, Beth second. That's also really striking to me. I mean, like, I'm sure I was the same way, but like just hearing it said in that succinct way, like putting yourself second in your own identity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You took on the countenance, Jesus was in your countenance. Can I ask you a question? And nobody judge me really quick, but I'm not sure how to click on Julia and make you big. For anybody who's watching, you guys know that I never do any of my own tech stuff. And also I'm almost 51 years old. So we didn't have computers when I went to college. They didn't exist. So I click on Julia and nothing happens. How do I make you bigger? Can I not do that when there's a video on the screen?
Maybe not while there was a video.
You could maybe unshare it. Is there a way to take it off the screen and only put it back on when we need it? Or I don't know. I don't know.
What if I just don't mess with it? And then if you want to do some mini clips of your own, you're just going to have to crop it down.
That's
okay, we're going to have to experiment when we're not on a live with people. We'll do a meaningless live this week so that Jennie can experiment with StreamYard. If anybody would like to educate Jennie on StreamYard, this is my first time. I'm super proud of myself.
StreamYard's a good one.
Even grandmas can StreamYard. Okay, Julia.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let me see if I can do this this time. Okay, this one is probably the most shocking and the one that's been getting the most momentum of all the talks on conference.
I've seen this pop up.
Okay, yeah. So Neil L. Anderson, one of the 12 apostles, he gave a talk and it was mainly focused around abortion. And it struck me. I was shocked that he was even talking about this. Is this it's almost like a political, anyway, but I'll just play the clip and then we'll get your guys' reactions.
The word of the Lord concerning the unborn, given voice through the first presidency in the quorum of the 12 apostles, has never varied and echoes the words of prophets through the ages, giving divine clarity to what the Lord has asked of us. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes in the sanctity of human life. Therefore, the Church opposes elective abortion for personal or social convenience and counsels its members not to submit to, perform, encourage, pay for, or arrange for such abortions. The Lord allows for possible exceptions when pregnancy results from the rape or incest, or a competent physician determines that the life or health of the mother is in serious jeopardy, or a competent physician determines that the fetus has severe defects that will not allow the baby to survive beyond birth. The first presidency continues. Abortion is a most serious matter. Even in these rare situations, it should be considered only after the persons responsible have received confirmation through prayer and counseled with others. 30 years ago, the Lord's prophets issued a proclamation to the world. It includes these words: "We declare that God has commanded that the sacred powers of procreation are to be employed only between man and woman, lawfully wedded as husband and wife. We declare the means by which mortal life is created to be divinely appointed. We affirm the sanctity of life and its importance in God's eternal plan." End of quote. Nurturing and protecting life that is yet unborn is not a political position. It is a moral law confirmed by the Lord through his prophets.
Beth, before we get into this, can I just give a little disclaimer? Because when people listen, I hate to have abortion debates because I know that it is an emotional issue for so many people. So as we continue in this conversation, Beth and Julia and myself, we're not either supporting or saying that abortion is wrong. I simply believe that every woman should have access to abortion. If that's something that you feel deeply is against your integrity, your faith, whatever it is in you that thinks that abortion is wrong, then nobody's forcing you to have an abortion. But I do believe that everybody should have access to that for medical reasons, for personal reasons. There are a variety of reasons when I think that absolutely abortion is necessary, but sometimes it's not necessary. It's just the best choice. And I think that every woman should have access to that. So we're not here to debate whether we think that abortion is like the right thing or not. I sometimes do that on my space, but I stay away because I don't want anyone to feel like they are wrong about that. I think it's a really sensitive topic. So
so the first thing he talks about how it's been this way throughout all time, that this is wrong and that type of thing. Well, first off, no, like abortion was one of the oldest practices, one of the oldest, careers for people out there is dealing with unwanted pregnancies or pregnancies that are going awry. And so one of the things that I take beef with on this topic is if I found out tomorrow that I was pregnant and I go to get an abortion, I am being told that no, this is elective. However, I know that every, the times that I've been pregnant, I get so sick that my OB literally said to me last time I had a baby, he said, you need to never have a child again or you will die. So I have to then find out I'm pregnant, and then I have to wait until I am so sick that I am literally dying, and then I can get an abortion. Meanwhile, I would have known from day one that I could, that's where it was headed. So instead of believing women about themselves, about their own bodies, about their situation, about what they know is going to happen, we believe the government. Meanwhile, we have people who are constantly talking about how much we do not trust the government, but, let's trust the government over trusting women. Mm-hmm. And that just goes to show to me how much we hate women as a society in America. I also saw some interviews, and I have not fact checked this, but I saw someone who was interviewing someone who is from Islam and somebody who is from Judaism. And they both said that abortion is allowed in their religions, and that it's not forbidden at all for them, and so it's strictly a Christianity thing.
Interesting.
Fact check me on that, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, I've researched that, and Judaism doesn't prohibit abortion.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I also I don't know where the reference is, but I think in the Bible when there's somebody, maybe Leviticus or wherever it lists the rules. I think one of them it lists one of the rules is, or however you say that, when a man hurts a woman and she loses her unborn child, and then he has to give her some amount of money, and it's not even the price of I think it's the price of a slave or something like that. This is the equivalent. So anyway, my thoughts were even the Bible isn't valuing this unborn child as the church is seeming to do now. But I also wanted to say with this situation that you have given, where if you go in for an elective abortion, but then you find out later because you're having to carry this baby. I think that statistically, a lot of times women who abort in the third trimester, it's because they didn't have access to it in the first trimester. And so it's because of these legal things that it's pushing that it's making making it so that they do it then rather than earlier. But yeah, I agree with you, Jennie, that women should have the right should have access to this.
Yes.
Are you going to play the other part of the clip where he talks? Okay.
About the mistress?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean, or was there?
Is there more of the abortion part?
Did you want more of the abortion part?
So some of the talking points that he touched on that I thought were really important too is a lot of the conversation is always about when does life begin? And he left that a little bit vague. He's like, yes, our argument against abortion is because yes, we believe that life begins at conception, but that's not the reason why you shouldn't have abortion. In this talk, he gives the example of a 17-year-old girl who found out that she was pregnant, and she carried her baby, and the Lord helped her through that pregnancy. So it was amazing. He also gave the story of another young woman who found herself pregnant, but because she wasn't married and she knew she couldn't raise the baby in a good home, and he didn't say that she was like a young teenager, so that's a little bit questionable. I don't think that he gave her age. So she did the right thing and gave it to a couple through LDS adoption services who were worthy, temple married, and she knew that her child was going to be raised in the gospel in a temple sealed home. And then, he gave other examples, and he said that the reason why we shouldn't have abortions is very simple. Heavenly Father has, bajillions of spirit children in their past life, their Mormon preexistence, and they are waiting. They have waited for half of an eternity to come to earth. So when you terminate a pregnancy, it doesn't matter if life begins at conception or if it begins somewhere in the middle or begins at birth. If you terminate that pregnancy, then you are saying to one of your spirit brothers and sisters in the preexistence that they don't get that earth life. You don't get to come here. You do not get to have that. So he's basically saying, not even basically, he's saying that women's wombs are portals to the preexistence, and that we have to bring Heavenly Father's spirits down to earth so that they can have their my turn on earth, their Saturday's Warriors moment. And I find this very problematic because it dismisses any other concept of life. I'm an atheist. I believe that life is just a biological function. I don't believe that there's souls or spirits that are waiting in heaven to come down in some pre-existent premortal state. And this is America. I have freedom of religion. I don't have to believe that that baby is some spirit that needs my womb to be the portal so that it can have earth life. I found it a very problematic argument, and it was very Handmaid's Tale to me, very much these spirits for life. So it doesn't matter what sacrifices you make. If you're a 17-year-old girl, if you're somebody who has to place your baby for adoption, and then the other one that we're going to get into in just a little bit, you have to do it. I'm also just very simply sick of men talking about women's bodies. I'm sick of it. I think it's bullshit. And I'm going to call bullshit on this whole entire talk. If I was let's say I hadn't left the church and I was kind of on the track to do cool things. What if I got into the young women's general presidency? I lived in Utah. That could have happened. That could have been, my sliding doors moment of not being ex-Mormon Jennie, but being maybe in Sister Freeman's position. Let's say I was in the young women's general presidency and I gave a talk in general conference about boys yanking off. Let's say I gave a talk that I didn't want boys to go up girls' shirts. What if I gave any talk about male sexuality, or if I gave a talk to the men about watching Pornhub? Would that be appropriate? Really, do you guys think that would sell well? Why is this man speaking to women about what they should do with their wombs and what they should do with the fruit of their wombs? I find it wildly inappropriate, and there's no other setting in which this would happen. Kevin works in a school, and if there's something going on with a girl, she's taken to a female admin or a female nurse. She needs tampons or she needs something. They don't go to Kevin because Kevin has absolutely nothing to do with girls with anything other than just, discipline and teaching them algebra. In the Mormon church, I was taken to a bishop from the time I was 8 years old and drilled on stuff. I had bishops ask me about self-pleasure. I had them ask me about sex. I had them ask me all kinds of different questions. And this is just culturally appropriate. Why? Why is it culturally appropriate for this man to stand in general conference and talk about women's wombs at all? It's gross, it's tacky, and it really needs to stop.
Well,
Yeah.
women have not been allowed to speak. Mm-hmm. So the only person left is the men. So anyway, sorry, Beth.
No, you're totally fine. I just find it obnoxious that men are speaking on childbearing because they do not bear any of it. They don't bear the child physically. They don't bear the damage to their potential to ever have a career. They don't bear the nursing and the changes to their body. They do not bear any of it. And so it's real easy for them to sit there and talk about what other people should do with their bodies, but they never have any repercussions. They don't bear the social pariah experience that comes out of a teenage pregnancy that a girl does. So
Yeah, I've been reading this book called Abortion, and this woman points out that people often say, oh, you can't abort that baby because what if it goes on to cure cancer? But this 17-year-old in this scenario, what if she could have cured cancer had she not had a baby and not been able to go to college and been able to get this? So like, there's different ways of looking at this, because like, you're right, Beth, this woman, this little 17-year-old, this child her career aspirations, her whole future is altered because of the birth of this child. Not to say that this was the right or wrong decision for her, but she should have had a right to that decision, the access to that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so for the first time I heard this talk, I was so caught up in this abortion section that I totally brain spaced this next part. But like after we're talking to you about it, Jennie, we're going to share this clip because it's really shocking, but my brain was just so focused on this.
Beth, hold your horses. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Like, it was so hard for me not to call you and tell you about this.
I think I've seen people allude to this
On one occasion, I was to interview a man on behalf of the First Presidency for the restoration of his priesthood and temple blessings. After his marriage in the Holy Temple, and after having 3 wonderful children, the man was unfaithful to his wife and his sacred covenants. A single woman became pregnant and wanted an abortion. The husband's saintly wife pleaded with the woman to have the baby and promised that she would raise the child once he was born with her own children. The single woman thoughtfully agreed not to end the pregnancy. It had now been 10 years. The humble sister sitting in front of me loved the boy as her own and told me of her husband's efforts to make amends and to love and care for her and the family. The father wept as she spoke. How could this noble woman of God take a child as her own, who could be a daily reminder of the unfaithfulness of her husband? How? Because she found strength through Jesus Christ, and she believed in the sacredness of life, the holiness of life. She knew the unborn child was a child of God, innocent and pure.
I am just speechless right now. I don't even know what to say about that. Oh my goodness.
It's a good one.
Notice that women are the ones who bore all of the repercussions of what this man did, right? Okay, so he like had a little rough time with it, okay? And he got emotional over it. But the woman who proceeded to have an entire pregnancy, put her body through everything that a pregnancy and birth requires, and then his wife, she ends up going to the woman to be the one to convince her to not have the abortion. And then she's the one that ends up raising, this child, being the primary caregiver from the sounds of it. Mm-hmm. So again, we have women are the ones who are bearing all the burden when men are making it so that abortion may or may not be on the plate.
Isn't it horrible? I have so many problems with them role modeling such a despicable example. And I think that maybe this couple truly did. So I've had people reach out to me who are like, oh, they're in my ward. So I thought that this was a lie. I know that on Shelise's thing, we're like, oh, that has to be
someone in my stake who had this situation. And I'm trying, it might've been, no, they had 4 girls first, but yeah, I had someone in my stake who had a very similar situation.
Yeah, it's true. And for my followers, everybody knows that my husband cheated on me for several years, for our whole entire marriage. And I found out towards the end of our marriage. And so I've been in that position. I've been that woman. And I can't imagine having to raise his child. Like, I cannot imagine having to then take that child and that constant reminder. It's just so despicable to role model such toxic things for young women. I don't like it at all.
Also, this whole story is putting women on a pedestal. Like, it's like, if you're not this good, like, I don't know. It just sounds like to me, it's like, everyone be the type of woman who will take in the child as a daily, this child who is a daily reminder of your husband's unfaithfulness to raise them. Like that's 18 years of a daily reminder. I don't know. That's just like an unrealistic expectations, too high of a pedestal that women who would be like, no, I'd have a problem with that. Like, no, I don't want to raise this child. I don't know. I just feel like that's unfair. Women can be amazing and not want that choice. Women can, I don't know what I'm saying, but I don't like that. I feel like it's putting women on a pedestal.
There had to be a million other stories of women not choosing an abortion that he could have used.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a doozy.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to sit with that one like all night, and I might have a better text for y'all in the morning on this, but I'm just speechless on it right now.
Yeah, and to share this in conference. Also, this whole talk of abortion, because normally I would think that they pick topics that are pertinent to the members. They're not just going to give some random topic. But this is like thousands of members are watching. The church claims 18 million, 17 million active members of the church, or I guess membership and all. But we know that the active members are much lower. But anyway, I wonder if the church if they're getting a lot of people who are trying to have abortion.
Oh.
Like, what is happening behind the scenes that we're not seeing?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that they also, let's face it, that the Mormons who are in our comment sections constantly are far different than the Mormons that we were raised to be. They are wearing different clothes. They have different standards for themselves. They do not know their church history or scriptures or anything like that. And so they have a much more progressive church body than they would like. And so I wonder if that is bleeding in.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Okay, so the next one, skip. So this is Boom. I can't remember his first name. Hans T. Boom. And he talks about the story of a bishop, which I thought was really interesting. So we'll play this one.
On one occasion, when my wife's father was serving as a bishop, he was falsely accused of something and was immediately released. My mother-in-law was so hurt that she asked her husband if they should continue to go to church. He answered that they, of course, would continue to go to church, since this is not the church of man, but this is the church of Jesus Christ. It took some time before the truth came to light and apologies were made. What could have been their breaking point just added to their strength and conviction. Why is it that some of us take for granted the faith and testimonies of our parents, who through all their hardships have remained faithful? Do we think that they do not have a clear understanding of things? They were not and are not deceived. They just have too many experiences with the Spirit and can say with the prophet Joseph, I knew it and I could not deny it.
Okay, so that was like a simpler story. I feel like throughout his whole talk, he seems to be saying, like, listen to the stories of people who were offended and didn't leave. And I just don't like that. Like, listen to the stories of people who stay so that you can stay too. They did it, so you can do it too.
I want to talk about this one with Fontaine and Hannah Judd. They put out a series on YouTube called The Crazy Train. And it's a series of various things that happened to them, basically starting with them falling into poverty as members of the church. And they ended up losing all of their reputation within their congregations and were just treated like crap over and over and over the series of several years. And one of the last things that happened to them, their son, so this is going to be triggering as I first say it, but their son was accused of sexual assault. And so I was like, I'm always suspicious. Like, so I've talked with them for 6 hours. And in that 6-hour conversation, they did close a lot of the loopholes for me that had me like questioning the validity of them saying like that this was a false accusation. And we can go into that another time with them. here on under her eye. But he had their family had this experience, and instead, they kept trying to go to church. They actually had armed guards show up at their door with a letter telling them that they are not allowed to go to church because they wouldn't just let it go.
Oh my goodness.
So their son was not allowed to go on a mission because of the accusations. His reputation, it was following him everywhere that he went. He moved out of state and it was following him there. And they actually have a video allegedly of when it happened. And you can see that like it didn't happen in this video. I'm not saying that it couldn't have happened at some other point. It's a very, like I said, I've talked to them for 6 hours about this. But they didn't stop going because they were offended. They stopped going because they literally had armed men show up at their door, hand them a letter from Curtin McConkie, tell them that they were not allowed to go to church anymore. And then they thought, oh, this is BS. There's no way. They didn't think BS. They were like, oh, this fetching isn't true. I don't know. But they tried to go back to church, and those armed guards were at the door to keep them out of the church.
Oh my gosh.
So this story is just crazy to me, having just talked to the judge for 6 hours.
Interesting.
About this. So anyway, that's all I could think about the whole time.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, what were your
Did
guys'
you have thoughts on this one, Jen?
I don't know. I feel like there were so many talks about if you have legitimate reasons to leave the church, then don't. And it's such a hot button for me because for 44 years, I had legitimate reasons why the church was harming me in a variety of different ways. And I know people always say, oh, you just left the church because you were offended. That's actually not why I left the church. I left the church for doctrinal reasons. And it wasn't that I was offended. The church was life-threatening to me. My Mormon bishop took my husband and said, hey, Jennie says you're abusing her and she's trying to get away from you. And my husband then almost unalived me that weekend and brutally abused me. The church harmed me in a variety of ways for 44 years. And I would still keep going because just like this, it's like, well, it's not the people, it's the Lord's church. Just because there's a couple bad apples doesn't mean I'm going to throw away the whole entire bushel or don't throw the baby out with bathwater. Like, these are just people. God, the Lord, Jesus Christ, whoever is in charge of the church. And I wish that somewhere years before I hit like this really huge, horrible time period where it was causing so much harm. I wish back when it was just kind of mildly hurtful, annoying, my inner voice just telling me, hey, I don't want to do this. I wish that I had listened to my inner voice and not participate in the thought stopping, because he's truly saying, don't look at situations that are going on that may be valid. And he's not calling for anybody to like make any type of reparation or anything. He's just, like throughout the whole entire conference, it's like, all these people, they keep going to church, even though it sucks, even though they hate having callings, even though this guy was like accused of some crime and then it turned out that he didn't do the crime. But a good thing he kept going to church because everything was fine. I don't know. I think that we should listen to our own internal voices. And I wish that I had been taught that. I wish that I had gone to a church that said, hey, Jennie, your gut instinct, your intuition, it knows. It is all knowing. And you don't need to listen to a man or a bishop, or you don't have to be in a certain building on Sunday to have a happy life. That happy life is within you.
I was just thinking as you were speaking that I don't think that according to the church, I don't think there's any good reason to not go to church anymore.
No.
I think like this is a good reason. The dad was accused of something. That's like anyone would be offended of that. Accused of a crime he didn't commit, sure. But he went anyway. But like, some of us have struggles with doctrine. Some of us have struggles with the racism or the homophobia or whatever. Those are really good reasons to leave, and the church will never say that. The church will never act like that's a good reason.
But if you push back on your leaders or don't submit to and obey your leaders, they won't let you go.
Right.
So there's that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this next one is from Shumway. And this one's about giving out callings, which this one struck me as really interesting because, again, I wonder what the church is going through overall.
So I invite leaders and each of us to more intentionally seek those without callings, encourage them and help them to engage in God's work. John was not active in the church when his bishop visited and told him that the Lord had a work for him to do. He invited John first to quit smoking. Although John had tried many times before, this time he felt an unseen power helping him. Just 3 weeks later, the stake president visited John and he called him to serve in the bishopric. John was shocked. He told the stake president he had just quit smoking, and if this meant he'd have to abandon his tradition of attending professional football games on Sunday, well, that was just too much to ask. The stake president's response was simple and inspired. John, he said, I'm not asking you. The Lord is. To which John replied, well, if that is the case, I will serve. John told me that these sacrifices to serve were the spiritual turning points for him and for his family. I wonder if we have a blind spot, failing to extend callings to individuals who, to our mortal view, appear unlikely or unworthy. Or we may be more concerned with a culture of performance than with the doctrine of progression, neglecting to see how the Savior increases capacity in the unlikely and the unproven by giving them opportunities to serve. Elder Bednar teaches the importance of the scriptural mandate to let every woman and man learn their duty and to act.
Okay. So there's a whole lot there to unpack, but one thing that stood out right away to me. So Lori Daybell is on trial right now, and she just gave her opening statement on Monday, yesterday. I guess it's today, Tuesday. Yes. So Lori, she actually talked about how if her bishop, or sorry, this wasn't in her opening statement. This was in an interview right before the trial. She said that if her bishop had come to her and said, hey, we have a calling for you, and it's going to require that you're in prison for the rest of your life, but you're going to get to work with women. You're going to get to be pray with women and be a spiritual support to them. You're going to get to help these women to be able to believe in themselves and love themselves and experience things that they've never experienced. It's going to be really hard, and this calling is your calling for the rest of your life. Will you accept it? And she said, absolutely, I will. So I think it's really interesting that right after Lori had that interview, we have this where there is this indoctrination that no matter how wrong or bad or how much of a misfit it is for you in your life and your situation, that you're just supposed to say yes, that no is not an option. And the fact that we have a man who just quit smoking 3 weeks ago, and then we're calling him to this type of thing, it feels like control. It feels like coercion. Like, okay, we got you to stop smoking. Now we got to trap you in something so that you can't break out of this. And we're gonna occupy all of your time, and we're gonna make it so that you have to hold yourself to a standard that is absolutely unfair and inhumane for somebody who's going through this big of a life change. So anyway, I think it's really interesting that they would be calling somebody who just quit smoking 3 weeks ago to a bishopric. Yeah. Are they really this desperate?
That was my other thought, is that if the church are they hurting for people to serve? I'm sure they are, because otherwise why have this talk? Like, he's basically saying, give callings to people who don't want them or who don't have them. That's what he's saying. And so, like, that's just really interesting.
And don't turn them down.
Yeah, you can't say no. Even if, because this isn't from him, it's from God. Even if you just quit smoking, even if you want to watch football games on Sunday or whatever reason, you can't say no. Yeah.
You guys, I was called to be the first counselor in a huge young women's in a ward in Gilbert the day before I was induced with Mason. So I was 23 years old and like my first baby, and I was completely clueless and just like, I was terrified. First time too, I'm like, childbirth, like I'm probably going to die. Like it was just this whole huge, horrible thing. And I was 10 days overdue. 10 days overdue.
Dang.
I'm 5'3". I was like 106 pounds when I got pregnant with him, and he was almost 9 pounds, huge baby. I did not feel good. I was super concerned about just parenting, like being a new mom and stuff. And so I was scheduled to induce because I was so far overdue. So Dr. Beck, Mesa, Arizona, you're amazing. Scheduled to induce on Monday. Sunday afternoon, I went to church and everything. Sunday afternoon, the bishopric calls and says, hey, brother and sister Green, you don't have to come down to the church, but can we come over and talk to you guys? So they come to my house, like my mom's in town, my mother-in-law's in town, everybody's there because the baby's going to be born like tomorrow afternoon at like 3:00. And we sit down in the office, the bishopric, all three of them, they're all dressed up in their suit and ties. And they're like, Sister Green, we would like to call you to be the first counselor in our huge young women's presidency in Mesa, Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona. And I was like, no, you may not have heard this, but I'm having a baby tomorrow at 3:00. And I can't do that because I'm probably going to stay home for like the next 2 months that I can just figure out breastfeeding and stuff like that. Like I never missed church. I went to church when I had strep throat. I have had my husband drive me to church right after getting out of the hospital. Like I'm always just at church. So I was not inactive, but I was going to take that 2 months and not worry about Sundays. I didn't have a calling. I was just going to be a mom. First time mom. That's a big deal. And I remember them like guilt tripping me because I was like, no, I can't do that. I was going to stay home for a couple months. And I don't think that I can handle the pressure of that. And they sat there for the longest time, just guilt tripping me. Like, we're not calling you. Heavenly Father has told us that you're supposed to be the first president in this young woman's presidency. God has called you to this. And I really resonated with like guilt tripping. So you guys, I said yes. I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So I had Mace on Monday. And on Sunday, I was in church with like 6 stitches. I had this huge episiotomy, leaking nipples, feeling terrible. I shouldn't have been there. I wish I hadn't have been there. And then being in the Young Women's Presidency too, I had Wednesday night activities. We had Saturday things, getting girls prepped for camp and stuff. And then I had to wean my baby from nursing so that I could go to girls camp with my young women's that year. And at the time, I just felt like, yeah, Heavenly Father's calling me to do this, just like this man. Like, yeah, you look at this woman and you think she's pregnant. Maybe we shouldn't call her to this position. But the Holy Ghost told them, Heavenly Father told them that's who was supposed to be in there. And it didn't bother me that much as I was a member. I actually looked at it as this faith building thing that I was able to step into that. Now that I'm a 50-year-old grandma and my kids are almost gone from home and Mason is now 27 years old, it breaks my heart that I missed out on his infancy. I don't even remember like moments with my baby. I was teaching young women's. I would nurse with like the hooter hider and like Mason was underneath. And then I was teaching the young women's lesson, you know what I mean? And meetings, word council stuff, first thing in the morning. Like I did not have the opportunity to connect with my first baby. And I feel bad for like 23-year-old me who had all of that pressure on her when like it's absolutely unnecessary. When I left the church and became Christian and like our first Sunday, they're like, anybody who wants to volunteer, like go down to the volunteer thing. And I'm like, volunteer? Like what the actual hell are you talking about? And then they would always advertise like, if you really like kids, there's a youth ministry position that pays like $40,000 a year. And seriously, every time I went to Christian church, I was like, oh, I'm so mad about Mormon calling. It's like, what the hell? I got scammed.
Dang, that's rough. Dang. Do we have any other things to say about this calling thing? That's wild.
I didn't realize my microphone was on mute. I was just saying, and we're just back to that same theme of men making the call and women bearing the burden.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Seems to be a recurring theme. Okay, what else you got for us, Julia?
Okay, this is Kase. Oh, this one caught my attention. I'll just play it first, and then we can talk about it.
Speaking to sisters who had not yet found an eternal companion, President Lorenzo Snow lovingly said, "There is no Latter-day Saint who dies after having lived a faithful life who will lose anything because of having failed to do certain things when opportunities were not furnished him or her. They will have all the blessings, exaltation, and glory that any man or woman will have who had this opportunity."
Lorenzo Snow, the polygamist, who was comforting the few women who weren't being chosen, or the men who were not going to be able to get married because a few men were taking all the women. That Lorenzo Snow.
Yeah, how he started that, he was talking to the sisters specifically. He didn't include the men. He's like, if the sisters don't have the opportunity to marry, basically.
Right.
And in Mormonism, that's the destiny of a Mormon woman. If she doesn't get married in this life, is to most likely be a polygamist in the next life. And I don't think I'm making that up. I'm pretty sure that's how the church has spun it this whole time. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm sure that modern Mormons would be like, no, we've never said that. But absolutely, that was what I was raised believing as a Mormon.
Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting that he said this. Keep going, Jennie, what?
I got engaged when I was 17. Whoa. Because I graduated at age 17 and had a full semester of college before I turned 18. Or actually, it was the trimester. It was the summer trimester. So I was 17 when I started college, and I fell in love, told the boy I would marry him. He put the official diamond on my finger just a couple weeks after I turned 18. But I remember being so relieved that I had found my eternal companion, because being raised in the Mormon church, my only object in life was to find that man so that I could have his babies, so that I could be his goddess. Like, I never thought about what I liked. Like, what do I like to eat? Who cares? I'm going to cook what my husband's going to. How many babies do I want? I don't know. However many babies my husband wants. What color is your favorite color? I don't know. Whatever color my husband wants on the walls in our house. Like, that's what I want. I was raised as like this blank slate for my husband to write his life story on. And it pisses me off so much. So this whole, like, this poor woman, like, if you're a woman who doesn't have a husband yet, well, that was me. And I was so relieved that I got engaged when I was 18, because then I knew that I found him. I didn't marry him, though. I ended up marrying Jake while he was off on his mission. And it was almost like musical chairs, where, like, you stay really close to the chairs. Like, I don't want to let this one go until I have this one, because God forbid that I'm a single woman. Yeah. What would my life be if I didn't have a husband? And again, men are the center of everything in all of the stories. They may talk about women, but women are just in proximity to power. There's no real power. What do any of these women do without the men? I don't know. I don't think the Mormon men think that we do anything without men.
Yeah, where he says, he's saying that the women won't miss out on any blessings. But like women, in order to be saved in Mormonism, she has to do it through a man. In order for her to do anything, it has to be through a man. To go to the temple, through a man. To go get baptized, through a man. Like, everything is filtered for a woman. Whereas it would be better if he were to just say, like, women, you don't need to do anything like that. You existing, you alone can go and not miss out on blessings. But she has to get married in order to.
A Mormon told me on TikTok this week that there's nobody between me and Jesus. That in Mormonism, there's nobody between you and Jesus. And I was like, there literally is, like, several layers of people between me and Jesus, but that's fine.
The bishop, the stake president, the temple president, like and it keeps going. Your husband, the temple rituals, even anyway. Yeah,
I veil my face because I cannot be in God's presence directly.
They did change that, but not when
I know. But not when I went through. Yeah,
maybe I should go back.
My computer is 2 seconds from dying, so let me grab my charger while you guys get.
Yeah, I was going to say, my computer says that it's dying, but it is plugged in. So if everything goes blank, again, I'm a grandma, and this is my first time doing my own live stream, so I hope that everybody's proud of us for doing this. And I think I'm good, but we'll see. If everything goes blank, then that's what happened. So thank you for joining us.
So while she's doing that, I'll set up this last final clip. So this is President Nelson. This is the very last talk and conference, and he did give an announcement of 15 temples, I think, and I think one of them was Spanish Fork, Utah, and you could hear the audience just like shouting, not shouting, but
they
like
have to drive pretty long ways to get to a temple. Yeah,
there's a temple everywhere in Utah. But so anyway, with this talk, he will set it up. He's 2 years before this, he was calling for the members to be kinder to people, to have more virtue. I can't remember some of the other language that he gives, but. So this was him reiterating this talk from 2 years ago. And I want Beth to see it. So I don't know if we should just wait for her to get back.
Yeah, let's wait for Beth. So I remember when he gave that talk a couple years ago, and I was so happy to hear him really kind of doubling down, because, I mean, isn't that what Christianity is supposed to be all about? In Christian mythology, like Jesus says at the very end, the one thing that's going to be the hallmark of my disciples, my followers, is that you have love for one another. And it always shocks me when I'm online. And Julia, I know that you've really gotten it this week because you do those amazing little shorties on the General Conference Synopsis. Anybody who hasn't seen Julia's General Conference Synopsis, please head over to Analyzing Mormonism on TikTok. They're one of my lifelong favorite things, and I just can't believe I'm friends with Julia now because they're absolutely amazing. But I know that you get a lot of hate from members. I have real life hateful behavior from my family who are members of the church. And on social media.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully.
I think she froze for a
When I
minute.
reach like millions of people,
Wait, repeat the last thing, Jenny.
never see.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Bear
Just
with
wait it
us.
out. Or, yeah.
And dehumanizing and threatening comments from anybody than from members. It's been really shocking.
Yeah, breaking up.
It's been really. Did I
Jennie?
freeze?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Just
You
the last
guys, we
couple
might be
few
about to
minutes.
die. Hold on.
Oh, okay. So
Do I need to switch to my phone? I guess for a very first
Maybe.
live
I don't know.
stream,
however
so
you
that we
need
can
to
work
do
out
it.
all these glitches. Like,
Will it cut us off if you switch devices though? So I think what Jennie was talking about, the type of response and things that we receive online as
Yeah.
ex-Mormon content creators.
Yeah, for sure.
It's rough. It's real rough.
Yeah, I wanted to play the clip and then talk about that because even with this last weekend, the videos that I posted, I've had really hateful comments. And I've had active members of the church and even Never Mormons reach out to me saying, "Whoa, are you okay?" Because these people are being so mean. And so I wonder if Nelson is seeing this and seeing that Never Mormons are seeing this kind of example in the comments and is trying to say, "Don't do that." Should I go ahead and play the clip? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we might have a little feedback from Jennie having two devices out, but
Okay. Because I'm going to push play if we're good.
okay. I think we're good.
Okay.
Hostility builds no one. Contention never leads to inspired solutions. True charity towards all men is the hallmark of peacemakers. It is imperative that we have charity in our discourse, both public and private. I thank those of you who took my previous counsel to heart, but we can still do better. The present hostility in public dialogue and on social media is alarming. Hateful words are deadly weapons. Contention prevents the Holy Ghost from being our constant companion. As followers of Jesus Christ, we should lead the way as peacemakers. As charity becomes part of our nature, we will lose the impulse to demean others. We will stop judging others. We'll have charity for those from all walks of life. Charity towards all men is essential to our progress.
I need that sound on TikTok to start just like using.
I've been thinking about that a lot.
The Mormon.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. Where this is a good message that he gave. Like, I support this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's very woke of you, Nelson.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to. The people in my comments that were being hateful, I want to be like, here, listen. You clearly didn't hear the last talk. Like, change your ways, repent. But yeah, this is a good talk. I really appreciated him saying this. And I want, like, again, in order to speak about this in conference, this broadcast, it only happens twice a year. This has to be kind of, to me, I see it as kind of a bigger deal. Like with abortion, I wonder if there's something behind the scenes going on that we're not seeing. And this, I wonder if there's something behind the scenes that we're not seeing. Like, people coming into our comments, never Mormons, seeing those things, that type of thing. I just think that's really interesting.
I wonder how much the what's it called? Just like abortion being so front and center in the country right now. I think also maybe they're seeing these situations. We can hear you guys whispering. Hi.
Oh, can you hear me whispering?
Yes.
Thank you to Jennie's first time running a StreamYard.
But
you're
okay. You're okay.
You're fine.
I just wanted to let you know. But we have abortion so front and center in the country right now, and I wonder if they are seeing these cases where, you know, the woman, she had a miscarriage. The 24-year-old had a miscarriage, and she went to jail for it. She was arrested for it, and she did get released eventually. But the fact that she was ever arrested, so I mean, they are saying that there are situations where it's okay, which there are many states that are trying to say that there's absolutely no situation. We will make a 10-year-old go have a baby because of incest, right? And so perhaps the silver lining in this is them saying there are situations where we think it's okay.
True.
So
yeah.
Oh.
Jennie, did you have any comments on this final talk from Nelson?
Okay, did I do everything right? You guys, I'm so proud of myself for even just like launching this and getting it going. And I think I came back on. Grandmas can live stream. So I always do like a best and a worst on my channel. And I certainly felt that, is it Rasband who did the, you should adopt your husband's mistress's baby? I give that the absolute
Anderson,
worst.
I think
Anderson.
that's Anderson, yeah.
He's the worst. I thought that he was the worst, but I really loved Russell Nelson's talk. And when I was listening to conference, just because I was home and I wanted to listen twice, so I'd listen, and then during the break, I'd listen to that first one, and then I'd listen to the other one after, because I wanted to make sure that I heard everything so that I could really digest it so that we could talk about it here this week. Since I was just at home listening to stuff, I decided to kind of get into Mormon mode. So I baked cinnamon rolls and I took cupcakes to my neighbors, and I just kind of nested. I couldn't produce any videos if I was just home all day doing that. And it was funny, I had this moment of like Mormon flashback standing in my kitchen, and the prophet's voice comes over my Bose speaker, and it did kind of transport me back to Mormon Jennie. Like, it's like riding a bike, like that part of me is there. I literally cried during Nelson's talk. And to me, as an atheist, humanist, geonatalist, it was a white flag of humanity. It was an olive branch, and it was something that I very much needed personally to hear the prophet just reiterate that, we have the name Jesus right on our church. Like, they're making us all call it the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints now. Nobody's supposed to call it the Mormons. And that means something. And I felt like his talk was, that means something. And I think that he has to see also that people like Ward Radio and Jacob Hansen and all these guys out there, like, they're not doing the church any favors. You draw more flies with honey, right? Isn't that the phrase? Something like that. Or you attract more bees with honey. I don't know, whatever it is. My granddad had this cute little phrase, and it's like, yeah, like having this mean stick and going out there and battering everybody with the Mormon gospel and being jerks to people just because they've left the church. It's probably not doing the church any good. It's not good for their image at all. And he has to be aware of that. And I do think that Russell Nelson truly in his heart wants to make the world a better place. And he has to realize that with his members being so combative, that it's certainly not doing that. I do feel, though, and I know that we talked about this on Shalise's podcast, so 10 out of 10 recommend going and listening to the discussion with Shelise on Cults to Consciousness about conference yesterday, because we dove into that a little bit deeper than we have time for here. I do feel like it's kind of like a battle between, like a battle of the bands with the Mormon church, because they have on the one hand the Bible with, turn the other cheek, and if there's, a little flick of something in your brother's eye, don't pull that out because there's probably like a huge 2x4 in yours. We have the Bible, but it's juxtaposed against the Book of Mormon, which is like, if Laban has the blades, and if somebody is like stealing the sheep, then you're going to put their arms in the bag. The Book of Mormon is a work of jihad. It's holy war. It's extremely aggressive. And even as a Mormon, I felt this internal conflict of like, am I going to be like this Book of Mormon or am I going to be the Bible Mormon? And when I finally left the Mormon church and was like, oh, I don't have to decide, I can just be me and I can listen to my own inner voice, that was such a relief. And I feel like in Russell Nelson's talk, he kind of pulled it back in the Bible. He pulled away from the Book of Mormon. We're not going to go out there and we're not, this is not the title of liberty that we're all raising so that we can battle against everybody. Let's truly be Christ-like and do what Jesus said. And I gave Russell Nelson a 10 out of 10. I give him the Golden Moroni Award for Best Talk of Conference. He's my pick.
I'm getting that audio and I'm using it on TikTok to
Yeah, that's a
somebody
good
who's
one.
going
Yes.
off on me.
For sure. Yeah. That talk specifically
Love
needs to be shared on ex-Mormon content.
I texted it to everybody. I texted it to Jacob Hansen.
Yeah.
I said, did you see what Russell Nelson said? You guys need to be a little bit nicer. He has not responded. I sent it to Carmen Ellis. I sent it to like the whole entire Ward Radio crew and some other people that I don't want to name. But there are a dozen different people that I texted that to, and not one of them has replied to me. Zero.
Shocker.
So
you know what? I am all for Ward Radio going as hard as they want to. I am confident they are keeping people away from the church. So good on you guys. They're doing the work better than any of us could. So anyway, my goodness. Well, this was fun, you guys.
Yeah, this was fun. So yeah, that's all we have of the conference clips. I don't know if there's anything else we need to add, and then I don't know how frequently we're podcasting here on Under Her Eye. Did we talk about that?
Once a
frequency
week.
of it? Once a week?
So we have a whole lineup for you guys. We are planning on doing a once-a-week live stream. Sometimes it's going to be just me and Beth, maybe Julie and Beth. It may not always be all three of us. And if you're new to any one of us, we all have very distinctively different things we do. So I'm Life Take Two. I share escaping Mormon trad wife life, getting out of a religious structure that was extremely toxic for me and my children, and how I've rebuilt a very happy atheist Geonatalist life over here on the other side. And Julia dives into church history. She's analyzing Mormonism. She does an incredible job of just breaking down all the nitty-gritty details, and she brings facts. Like I have learned so much from Julia over analyzing Mormonism. And then Beth at breaking down the patriarchy. Of course, Beth comes in with the Mormon true crime. She has such a mind for crime and toxic systems, not just Mormonism, but Mormonism is some of her stories. So we're all three very distinctively different personalities and very different platforms, but I think that we converge beautifully. And that's why I wanted to take the three of us and see if we could do like a no-bake 3-ingredient cookie that was just amazing and wonderful. So sometimes one or the other of us may not be here, but we will do a weekly live stream, and stay tuned for those announcements. We're still kind of getting everything wrapped up with all of our channels so that we can announce those. We're going to release one weekly long form video, and we'll also have some little minis that I think that you'll really enjoy. And we will be bringing on special guests. So I've already reached out to a bunch of different people. Everybody has said yes. So we'll be talking to some incredible people that will share their stories with us, as well as sharing all of our experiences and our insights. So
yeah, that's great.
Yes.
This is exciting.
I'm excited.
Fun. So I want to thank everybody for just like being patient with us, because it is hard to collaborate, and I think that we went a little bit long, but I love all of this conversation, and I'm just so happy to be part of this. So thank you everybody for your patience. We are still figuring out audio and just kind of our groove with each other. Like, it's so easy to be a solo pilot. It's a little bit more difficult to have co-pilots and everything else. So this has been fun, and thank you, Beth and Julia, for being part of my life, for teaching me so much, helping me deconstruct a very toxic system, and just being a constant source of encouragement and inspiration and knowledge. You guys are such knowledge bases. Is there either one of you that I do not text or DM by like 6 a.m. every single day of the week?
Very rarely. If I don't hear from you by like 10 a.m. some days, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe she hates me now. Maybe today's the day she decided she hates me. Just paranoid, that's all.
Anyway, love and appreciate you guys.
goodness.
And I love all
Thank
of my, everyone who's been part of the chat. It's been a little bit overwhelming tonight just to figure out all this stuff. And I still don't know how to like click on certain things. So I think I learned StreamYard just a little bit. Like Kevin didn't have to go over
You're
it
a
for
pro
me.
now. This is great.
So next time we'll interact just a little bit more with you guys who are here. I would love to hear in the comments, and please go on all of our channels, anything that you'd like to hear more of. We're open to suggestions too. If there are topics that you'd like any of us to cover, then we would love to hear those. So thank you. And Beth and Julia, close us out.
Oh, I'm not sure what to say. We're really excited to be able to have this Under Her Eye podcast. And if you guys have specific topics that you want us to start to cover and dive into, and like we mentioned, we're not going to be a Mormon exclusive podcast. We are going to be diving into lots of social issues and that type of thing, where Mormonism might play a side character role in these stories and episodes and things that we talk about. So if you have topics that you want us to cover that have nothing to do with Mormonism, or they do have things to do with Mormonism, reach out to any of us. We would love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and suggestions for topics that we should dive into.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to like bring more women's voices into this space. I think that's needed. So yeah, I think this is going to be great.
Me too.
Awesome.
So thank you guys
Me
for
too.
joining the live stream and
Thank you,
everything. This is
guys.
great.
Yes.
Thank
This was
you.
so much fun.
We did it. I hope that you guys learned something from it. I always hang out in the comments, and Julie and Beth, I know that you guys do pretty well too. So I will always be hanging out in the comments. Love to connect with you guys. So any questions or anything, I'll be down there.
Awesome.
So, all right. Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.